Hi, I'm Diane McGarry with Dracut Arts. With me today are co-host Tom McGarry, sculptor Morris Norvin, and ASL interpreter Mary. Morris Norvin began to study art at the age of 8, attending various classes at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. At 10 years of age, he enrolled in Ralph Rosenthal's sculpture class there, continuing until he reached 18. Then he enrolled in the School of the Museum of Fine Arts and received a diploma in 1985. Since that time, Morris has exhibited works in many juried shows, and his work is on a multitude of collections, including the Federal Reserve Bank in Boston. He has spent the past 2 decades teaching sculpture at the MFA Boston, the very class he attended when he was a teen. He owns and manages Stonybrook Metal Art and Sculpture School in Boston, teaching welding, mold making, foundry, and jewelry, as well as modeling the figure. We're very happy to have Morris with us, and he actually holds a special place in my heart because he taught my daughter stone carving in her last year of homeschooling. So, what inspired you to do sculpting of all the different art forms?
Well, it might have been, I just had a fascination for building things when I was younger. Legos, Lincoln Logs, all those kind of toys that I had access to. I like putting things together. And, uh, and I was fascinated by the sculpture in the Museum of Fine Arts when I saw when I was young, they had a version of the David in the rotunda there.
Oh, yeah.
There are several copies of that go around the world in traveling exhibitions. They get loaned out here and there. At the time, I didn't know that. I thought it was the original one because it was a copy of it. And you could actually, back in those days, the museum was kind of lax about how they secured the place. You could actually sit right at the foot of that thing and
Wow.
touch it and feel the veins and the toenails,
Oh,
and there it
gosh.
was towering way above you. It was an amazing experience to just be that close and to be able to study the form of it. And it was just fascinating and inspiring. And I'd done some other classes with drawing and linoleum cutting and light printmaking things when I was younger. Things that kids do that are kind of a step above finger painting, but not too far.
What?
The sculpture room, when I was brought up there to see it, um, that's her over there. It was just fascinating. There was a wide range of kids in there, from slightly older than I was to almost adults, and they were working on amazing things in a variety of materials. There was so much activity, and everybody was really intent on what they were doing, and everybody was doing something different. And I just knew I wanted to be in that room doing stuff like that. So he took me in when I was a little young for that class, and kept me around because I guess I showed a lot of promise, and I had good manners in there and didn't disrupt anything, and I just studied what the older kids were doing and saying and talking about, and I just did it for till I was too old to do it anymore.
But you're still doing it, so you're not too old to do it.
Well, yeah, in that within that classroom environment, yeah. No, I did keep doing it. It was sort of there was something sort of like a drug to it. There's a certain bit of a high that I would get upon finishing something and having the satisfaction of seeing my vision the way I'd seen it in my head come true. And
You have a parrot.
yeah, that's her. She's watching. She's seeing me talk, getting very excited about it, and might even come over to investigate what I'm so interested in.
Great. What's her
Let's
name?
see. Her name is Goonie. She's a green-cheeked conure,
Oh,
and
wow.
she's a rescue bird. She's probably about 12 now. Um, Her original owner got old and went into a nursing home, and she got passed on to somebody else who had some cats that and a dog that just all of them were just very hungry looking at her.
Yeah.
So someone got in contact with us and said, "Hey, there's a bird that might need some rescuing," and she did, and we've had her now in the house for about 4 years, and she's kind of a bathing bird. She's a bathing beauty. She likes to bathe all the time. If you go in and wash the dishes in the kitchen, she flies right in and climbs down my arm. She wants to bathe. She'll bathe in the cup of my hands.
Oh, wow.
She has a perch in the shower every morning. She has to come in and take a shower with me. She has bowls of water all over the house, all over her cages and perches and everything. And as soon as you give her fresh water, she is in it, swimming around, splashing. That's her thing.
Wow. So has she inspired certain art pieces from you because of this?
Well, I do make a bunch of birds. We have another rescue bird that's a little bit bigger than she is. It's a Quaker parrot.
Oh, wow.
And that bird also, the bird was in a rough situation, and she was in a home. She was young. She was 4 when we got her, and she had plucked out a lot of her feathers on her chest, done a lot of self-harm. Birds that get, especially these types of parrots, hook bills, they get depressed and they start picking at
Well,
themselves.
they're
And
community birds. They're used to living in a huge flock, and then we isolate them. It's very hard.
there is that. There is that. Usually, they will a hook bill type of bird. If you just get one of them, they will bond to the owner, and you become their flock. And then they pay a lot of attention to where you are and what you're doing, and hey, they'll groom you and clean you. They'll be your best buddy. If you get 2 of the same kind of bird, though, then they see each other and they realize they're not one of you. And then you won't get that bonding. They'll bond with each other, and you'll just be feeding and cleaning their cage, and there won't be generally that much interaction.
Is that what you found with your two?
Well, our birds are 2 different types of birds. They don't get along. They each think they're people, and the other one's a pest. So they're, but the green cheek conure is my bird, and the other one belongs to my wife, and she only tolerates me when my wife isn't around. But we've gotten her to kind of stop her the feather pulling thing. It also it triggers something, a pleasure center of the bird's brain, and so they even though it gives them a moment of pain, it also gives them a moment of pleasure. And a depressed bird will seek out that moment of pleasure to comfort itself, and so that's why the feather plucking becomes so problematic, because it feels good, but then they lose their feathers and they're cold and they can get sick, and it's bad, but then they keep doing it. And sometimes you can try the cone of shame. Our bird wouldn't tolerate the cone of shame. So we've just been giving her lots of other things to chew on. But I did make a small sculpture of her about the size of her and painted it.
Oh,
And
wow.
my wife loves it and won't let me sell it.
That's great. Here, let's look at some of your other works. I love these
Oh,
bears.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that's before and after their paint job. Little stone swan. Um, what, these dinosaurs were one of the first things I started welding.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
As you can see, over time, I've gotten a little bit more minimal and a little bit more anatomical.
But there's
Uh,
so much movement in these. They're
Thanks.
they're not really standing. I mean, they're literally standing still, but not really. There's just,
Mm,
I feel them
yeah.
floating through the air and prancing on. I can see
That's
the
totally
movement up to the stop that you've gone and beyond. Now that your birds would jump right in.
it is funny watching birds hop around on it. It's
I
it's
bet.
fun. That one there, that guy was the one the Federal Reserve bought, the dog with the ears up.
And I
And
like this one with your
Oh, wow.
frisbee.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's so much. So what has inspired your different animals?
um, Well, it kind of depends on the moment, I guess. I'm always inspired by horses. I love horses. I was around horses when I was younger, and I learned to ride when I was younger, and I've just always loved horses. I loved horses before I met my first horse. I think I saw one on like a John Wayne movie or something
Oh,
when I
yeah.
was probably 3, and just all of a sudden I couldn't think of anything but horses. So I love horses, and I'm fascinated by sea life, sharks, whales, dolphins, those kind of things. I'm troubled by things that are endangered, that aren't going to be around, and I try to draw some attention to those things. I wouldn't consider myself an activist, but I like to have people think, and if there's a way I can tie in the material I'm working with and the subject matter to make some kind of some sensibility out of it, I try to do that. But I like animals. I just love, the living things and what they do. Uh,
Well, and here are some of your people.
these were movie props.
Really?
Uh, this was for a movie called Frank the Bastard. Uh, and in fact, they rented out these girls, and a lot of my other sculptures, the main character was supposed to be a metal sculptor.
Oh,
So
wow.
they used my artwork as his artwork. And this is some oil clay and um,
I
uh,
love this. That's
thanks. Yeah, this was part of a whole installation in Chicago having to do with kind of warehousing the elderly. And we
yeah.
were talking about how the elderly are kind of stuffed away into these nursing homes. I had gone through this with my grandmother a few years before I made that piece. And the nursing homes were just such depressing places. People kind of just sitting there staring at the door waiting for a relative to come visit. It was just, so I wanted to, point some attention out to that, have people see that nursing home environment the way I saw it. And that was one of the pieces. There were a lot of figures and wheelchairs and things.
Yeah. That's very important. I work in nursing homes and in hospice, and people are forgotten there a lot, which is
It's
sad.
tough. It's tough. My mother spent her last days in kind of an assisted situation, and was surrounded probably for most of her time by strangers. It's going to be a hard thing, and especially what just happened over the last year with such a disaster in nursing homes specifically. So hopefully something will happen to reform the situation going
Yeah.
forward.
It's a real challenge. I mean, I haven't actually been able to go into work because it's not safe for the people there. Even though I've been vaccinated, there's getting all of those elderly people vaccinated, getting all the caretakers vaccinated. What with the restrictions and the concerns about the vaccine, it's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, well, it's
But so
you
is
know,
loneliness, I mean, even before COVID came out, there's a lot of loneliness in assisted livings.
yeah, and a lot of folks, I think, it saps your will.
Hmm.
It saps your will because why are you, hanging on when the generations you gave birth to are sort of ignoring you away, and it's hard. I know I didn't get to spend the amount of time I would have wanted to with my mother. I had to work and maintain bills and stuff, so it's hard, and
That
it's
balance is
probably,
so difficult.
yeah, and so many families now have been disrupted. Providers are out of the picture now. So many people have gotten sick and died. People who have long haul. I have so many friends that are long haulers that have constant problems because of having had it. So you know, we're crossing our fingers, and hopefully we can beat this thing.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring it down, but yeah, it's definitely a
Well,
reality. So on another, you have these artworks that are out in the public.
Yeah, I do some public things. The art, these are all commissions of sort. The archway is out in front of the Building Materials Co-op. The tools that arch is made out of were donated to the Building Materials Co-op by the wife of a contractor, a mason who had passed
wow.
away. And she wanted something to happen with the tools other than having them, you know, get discarded or sold in a flea market or something. And so that was one of my first commissions when we opened Stonybrook.
That is
And
so
those are all,
cool, Morris.
Very nice, yeah.
there's a few things of my own that I contributed to it, but it was kind of fun. Initially, they had a design that had a lot more support to it, but I felt confident that I could do it without all that and just with the tools. So there it is.
Wow.
So it stays up there suspended by itself. It's just an archway.
Yeah,
Just
it's
an archway. I'm saying like that's as if that's nothing, but that's huge.
yeah, it was good. You know, it brings attention to the place, and I think that's what they wanted to get folks coming in the door.
Yeah.
The peace tree topper there with the peace sign, that bronze thing,
Yes.
that's used over by Jamaica Plain. The town puts up a tree, a holiday tree on the greenway, and they had me make a peace tree topper for the peace tree.
Nice.
That's what that is.
Nice.
And yeah, the bird bath is made out of an old half of a propane tank.
Ah,
Really?
that's great.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then there's a barrel, the top of a barrel, a 55-gallon drum that I attached to that.
Wow.
That's what the rim is. And then it's just a bunch of random scrap stuff I had lying around to make the pool effects.
Well, I
But
love
it's
a floaty toy. You can make me a floaty toy like that anytime you want. I love to go out in that.
yeah, it's a hunk of steel, but the idea is good. Yeah,
It doesn't float.
I wouldn't count on it for flotation. No, I think like the birds ride it a lot. They stand on it, but
Oh yeah?
I haven't seen any of them get in there and try to
Hmm.
snuggle in or anything.
You know,
That's funny. So what is the most inspiring thing about sculpting and metalworking for you?
Um, well, I like the discovery. I like it's like hunting. You're hunting for the right piece. I try to use pieces the way I find them. I don't try to. Some of my work I've used stock, like some of the wireframe horses. That's stock that comes in a long rod, and I bend it the way I want to. But most of the big chunky figures you saw earlier, those pieces are pretty much the way I found them.
Yeah,
And if
I love your work. I think of it as recycled art.
yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to find especially tools, things that were made for a specific purpose. And once they broke, somebody determined that they had no more use in life and tossed them. Those are the things I treasure. So it's a bit of a hunt that goes into finding the right pieces. And I don't search for them one piece at a time. I just find interesting pieces and I think, oh, I could use this for this or that, blah, blah, blah. And they go into a big pile. And then when I go to make something, I dig through this pile and just start whipping out all this stuff and digging through it. And then I just kind of, wing it. It's just winging it. So there's a freedom, but also a terror. There's a fear that you could really screw something up in a big way. And I have done that. So it's a real fear. Because you don't know really, things might not be the right length or the right thickness or whatever it is, the right shape. And if I have to beat something into submission and put a tremendous amount of work into one piece that goes into a conglomeration of pieces, that one piece will stand out like a sore thumb. It looks like it got worked, whereas everything else kind of looks found. So even though I could use a forge and I could beat stuff into the exact shape I wanted to, make it look really slick and neat and fancy, and I'm more interested in letting the pieces look the way they were when I found them. I want people to discover something recognizable in there. So that large David, the big white guy there you saw, he has a big clutch plate right in his solar plexus, and he's outside my office. So when tourists are on their way to the back and forth to the Sam Adams Brewery, most of them aren't expecting to encounter art along their way. Art always, it's a big surprise. It pops out at them. And so they comment right outside my window. And so I'll hear all the guys, oh my God, that's a clutch plate. You know, they're fascinated by it because they recognize it. That's a tie rod. That's a shock absorber. They see the parts that they use when they fix their cars and stuff. They know what the parts are, and they've never thought of those parts outside of the context of their original purpose. And it opens up their eye for a second as to shape and form rather than function.
Huh.
And I think that's a crucial moment for people to see, because we take our manufactured world for granted. People in faraway office buildings design products that are made in faraway factories by faraway people, and they're boxed and packaged and shipped until by the time it gets to your door, all you see is a microwave or whatever doohickey it is that Jeff Bezos is selling us today. But and so you don't know how these things are made or what's in them or any of that stuff. I mean, I heard from a friend recently that there's a spate of robberies going around San Francisco where the thieves are cutting out the catalytic converters because there happens to be a tremendous amount of palladium and platinum, precious metals inside those things, whose market value through COVID has just gone through the roof. So now everybody's jacking up a car and taking a sawzall and cutting off the catalytic converter and shipping it off to China. So most people don't know that. They don't know what a catalytic converter is or why you need one or anything like that. And I think we've gotten so far apart and away from our manufacturing base in this country that people just don't understand how things are made or where they come from. So when somebody recognizes a piece of my sculpture as something that touches them in their everyday life, it means to me that I think that art has touched them now in their everyday life, where they may not have had that experience before. You know, you can walk by a pet store a million times and never know that the animal you're going to fall in love with is right there behind that piece of glass if you don't look. And it's the same thing with art. I think people don't know that they might enjoy art because for a variety of reasons they don't get exposed to it.
So how would you go about exposing more people to art?
Well, I think the internet is a great way to do it. I think a lot of people are seeing more art online. I think people through social media get to share a lot of art. So I think art is getting out to a certain amount of the population. But if you don't have, say you're in a rural area where you don't get too much of an internet connection, you might not have that access, or you're in a place where the local library is far, far away, or maybe you live in a place that just doesn't have museums around or galleries. I mean, all these places where artists show. And most cities and towns, I think, are attempting to do what you guys are doing in Dracut, trying to get some art into the town to bring people, to draw people in. And I think that can be very effective, but once again, relying on social media to get that message out that there's an event or something going on. I was asked to go to the Topsfield Fair a few years ago,
Oh, wow.
and set up a little sculpture demonstration thing. And the person that asked me to do that, of course, had very little idea of what that would entail. But I agreed to do it anyway. And this was going to be a soft thing. I was going to be outdoors, using clay and wax and talking to people about figurative sculpture and doing some figurative sculptures for people and here and there. It wasn't like a face painting booth or anything like that. I wasn't there to make any money. I was just there to demonstrate and talk to people about art. Of course, it was really cold. And I sat out there for 2 days. Yeah, for about 8 hours at a stretch, sitting there trying to make my frozen fingers sculpt. And I made a whole bunch of things. Little kids would come up and go, make me a lion. And then after 30 seconds of me just starting to make a lion, they'd get bored and walk away. So I just, make a lion. Okay, so I got a lion. Now I got a horse. Now I got, I mentioned this story because the most amazing thing to me was the people that approached me. I'd say it was probably about maybe 4% of the people that walked by. The other 96% acted like I was some kind of a drug dealer or something. And when the kids would see me sculpting and immediately try to make a beeline for me, and the parents would grab them like it was something dangerous I was doing and drag them away. Kids were crying, I want to go see this. No. So parents were vehemently opposed to children being exposed to sculpture for some reason. I guess it didn't fit into their preconceived notions of product-based art. I wasn't making plates and dishes and touristy things. I wasn't making keychains or anything that you could really buy and take home. I was just offering an educational experience. But I think that was really, really terrifying for some people, the idea that someone might teach them something. I don't know. But I did it.
Because playing with wax and playing with clay is so much fun.
Yeah, and I didn't have a kiddie table set up for kids to play with the stuff themselves. I would interested and curious kids, I would let them touch the stuff and feel it and talk to them about it. But the parents I was just shocked that they were just dragging their kids away like I was doing something bad. It was very, I didn't have a nude model or anything like that. I wasn't, doing anything risque. I think I made a samurai about this big and a couple of animals, and they had an 1812 Marine like right across from the regiment was there.
Oh yeah.
Doing Marine recruitment and stuff. So I made a sculpture of one of those guys because he was really good at standing still. So he made a really good model.
Did he
anyway,
like it?
Sorry.
Did he at least like the sculpture you made?
Yeah, he was interested. He was interested. He came marching over with his rifle and everything, and
cool.
took a look at it and stuff, and gave me a nod of approval. So I guess he liked it. Yeah, I don't know. It's strange.
Well, it's been great to talk with you today, Morris.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to having your art gallery, which will open on Saturday, September 25th. Please reserve your spot through Eventbrite at our website, dracutarts.com. The other September artists are author Sonia Larson and guitarist Thatcher Harrison. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you, Diane, Tom, and Mary. Thank you for the pleasure.